Hello, I'm Taylor Furr. I'm the 6th County 4-H agent. Welcome to the Health Rocks Inspired to Be Substance Free class. This is geared for, this is a beginner level, so it's geared for youth ages 8 to 12 years old. There are a few things I wanted to cover before beginning the program. First thing is, as you can tell, this is a recording, so it's a video, so it is meant for you to do this at your own pace. So feel free to pause the video at any point in time to complete an activity or to answer some questions. Also, please be patient with me as I complete this program. This is through Zoom, so we are still working through the kinks of how to provide programming virtually. So just bear with me as we get through this program. And lastly, any information read today, provided to you, all came from the Health Rocks curriculum provided by National 4-H. So let's begin. So what is Health Rocks? Health Rocks is a healthy living program with the goal to bring youth, families, and communities across the United States together to reduce tobacco, alcohol, and drug use by youth. This beginner level provides information and activities targeted at 8 to 12-year-olds. A healthy living program built upon the strong foundations of life skill development and decision making results in a program that truly reduces tobacco, alcohol, and drug use by younger youth. So why are we providing this program? Why are you interested in this program? So what are some things that you could, some outcomes that you could potentially see from this program? So we're going to help youth build life skills which lead to healthy lifestyle choices with special emphasis on youth smoking and tobacco use prevention. Help youth understand influences and health consequences of tobacco, drug, and alcohol use to make healthy choices, and to build positive, enduring relationships with youth involved as full partners through widely varying communities of interest to address youth risk behaviors. All right. So, Health Rocks is a 4-H living program, 4-H healthy living program, excuse me. 4-H is a program for youth that strives to make the best better. We strive to make the best better when we follow the words of the 4-H pledge. A pledge is a promise that we make to ourselves and to others. As we say the 4-H pledge, we can accompany it with the traditional hand gestures. So we are going to recite our 4-H pledge, and typically at any 4-H event that we have, whether it's a 4-H club meeting or a large gathering that we might have, we recite the 4-H pledge. So I'm going to do the hand gestures, and so you can watch the video portion of the my little box where my face is. So see the hand gestures. So let's begin. I pledge my head to clearer thinking, my heart to greater loyalty, my hands to larger service, and my health to better living for my club, my community, my country, and my world. And I wanted to make a note that for the line that says my health to better living, all you're doing is your hands are by your side. So your head to clear thinking, heart to greater loyalty, hands to larger service, and health to better living. All right. So breathing and stretching for relaxation activity. So sometimes we face something that might make us feel stressed out. Yoga, deep breathing, and stretching are ways to slow down our body and mind. When the body and mind slow down, it actually can make the stress less. So here's a breathing and stretching for relaxation activity that I would love for you to try. Like I've said before, you can pause this video at any time and complete the activity and then continue it as we move forward. All right, so for this activity, you may want to just find some space where you may need to lay down, because there are a couple activities that you can lay down for. For So at the end of each section that we're going to cover today, we're going to have some questions, and I would love for you to answer these questions. So whether you are just thinking about the answers to these questions, or you are, writing out the answers, however you feel you want to complete this, I encourage you to really think about your answers. So, how do you feel physically after completing the breathing and stretching exercises? What is your heart and breathing doing? Excuse me. Think about your attitude right now. Are you happy, sad, excited, tired, depressed? Can you think of a time you may want to relax? What are some times you could use this breathing and stretching exercise? Why is it important to have a healthy mind and body? How easy is it to make good decisions when you do not feel well? Why or why not? Why would using tobacco, alcohol, or drugs be a bad decision? What feelings do you have about participating in a program where you can learn about healthy decisions? How will what you learned in this activity be helpful to you when you are faced with a difficult decision? When you are upset, sad, or angry, what can you do to help you feel better? Is it a good idea to use tobacco, drugs, or alcohol to make you feel better? Why or why not? All right. So let's talk about trust. So trust me. Think of a positive trait about yourself. I would love for you to share this with a family member and then have them share a positive trait about themselves, or whomever you might be with around you. Share a positive trait about yourself and then have them share a positive trait about themselves. How does it feel to share a positive trait with someone else? Sometimes it might feel, sometimes I know for me personally, it could be kind of challenging to think of a positive trait, just because I personally don't think of myself. Um, I don't think of a lot of, I don't think of a lot of positive things about myself. I'm very hard on myself, so I think of things that I need to work on and such. So finding the positive can sometimes be challenging for me. Although when friends and family, they see so much more positive things in me than they do negative. So it's all on personality and how you feel and all that. So what is trust? Trust is a solid belief in the reliability, honesty, ability, or strength of someone or something. Who are trustworthy individuals in your life? So for me, a trustworthy individual in my life might be my mom or my grandfather. So think of those trustworthy individuals in your life. All right, so for this activity, it says which demonstrates trust. So I would like for you to read through each of these statements, and there's actually 2 slides to this. So I would like for you to read through each of these statements and pick out or figure out which are trustworthy and which are not trustworthy. So for like number one, Jack lets Sam use his cell phone to call his mom for a ride at the end of an after school activity. Does that demonstrate trust? Yes, that does. Number two says Kendall laughs as Sierra drops her lunchroom tray at school. I don't think that's trustworthy, is it? Not very good. So I'm not going to read each one out to you. I will let you pause the video and do that yourself. So again, remember there are 2 slides. So there are 21 statements. So you can just read through them real quickly and figure out whether they demonstrate trust or not. All right. So by this point, you should have completed the prior activity as to which statement demonstrates trust. So this is the conclusion for this section. So based on the situations that you've just previously read, were any difficult to label as trustworthy or untrustworthy? Why? Why is it important to be trustworthy? Think of someone you trust. What have they done to earn your trust? In a program like Health Rocks, where you learn about making healthy choices about tobacco, alcohol, and drugs, how do trustworthy friends help you make good choices? How can you help your friends make good, trustworthy choices? What is a consequence of not being truthful? What is the consequence for being friends with someone who is untrustworthy? After this activity, how would you describe trust to someone else? What are 2 characteristics of a trustworthy person? All right, moving right along. Who makes a good friend? So, who makes a good friend? All right. So, for this activity, we're thinking about qualities and characteristics of a good friend. So, what are some qualities and characteristics of a good friend? Below, you'll see the diagram of traits for integrity, traits of caring, and traits of, I'm probably going to mispronounce this word, I apologize, congeniality. I may not have pronounced that correctly. So, what is the importance of these 3 when being a good friend or making new friends? So think of those traits for each of those. So you have trustworthiness, honesty, dependability, loyalty, ability to trust others. You've got kind, caring, hopeful, nice, empathy, ability to withhold judgment, effective listening skills, ability to offer support, kindness, self-confidence, humor, fun, laughter, smiles. All right. So what are your top 2 qualities you feel are necessary in a good friend? So what are some qualities that you might, either from that list right there or just ones that you can think of off the top of your head, what are some good things that are qualities that you would like to find in a good friend? So for me, I would like someone who is trustworthy and someone who is caring. All right. And here are some questions that we can think about. So, what is a friend? How do you define a friend? What are characteristics of a good friend? What are characteristics that do not make good friends? What does it mean to be a good friend? How does it feel to be around someone who is a good friend? How does it feel to be around someone who is not being a good friend? What kind of friend do you want to be and why? What have you done that demonstrates you are a good friend? What could you do or say when someone is not being a good friend? How does a good friend help you avoid risky behaviors such as use of tobacco, alcohol, and drugs? So these are all really great questions that you could think about. So first, beginning with what is a friend? Define a friend. What do you see a friend being? And then just move right along through those questions and what are characteristics of a good friend? So I'd like for you to answer those and see which are, um, I'd like for you to answer those and see um, how, um, just to see, what is a good friend. Sorry, this video is distracting me. Okay. All right. So let's move into discussing tobacco, alcohol, and drug use. So I'm going to read some statistics for each category. So I will be reading a good bit, but I just want you to listen to these statistics and see which ones you find interesting or surprising. So I'm going to read the screen real quick. And this says, every day in the United States, more than 3,200 youth ages 18 years or younger smoke their first cigarette, and an additional 2,100 youth and young adults become daily cigarette smokers. Even when considering the total number of youth smokers is actually decreasing. I have a typo right there, so I will correct that. Um, All right, so let me read a little bit about some statistics and then, well, I'll go ahead and read. Vaping is the inhalation of vapors, sometimes including nicotine, using battery powered devices such as e cigarettes, mods, jewels, and e pens. So we will mention some um, mention vaping, so I wanted to define that for you. All right, so many factors help to determine the likelihood of younger youth experiencing drugs and other risks. Family, peers, school environments, and the community all play an important role in either pressuring or protecting youth in regard to drugs and alcohol. Um, so, despite the decline from this first statement I read up here, the abuse of other harmful products among youth is on the rise. Vaping involves the inhalation of vapors, sometimes including nicotine, using battery powered devices such as e cigarettes, mods, jewels, and e pens. The prevalence of vaping remains substantially higher than the use of any other tobacco product, including cigarettes, according to the Monitoring the Future survey. In fact, not only does the survey include vaping questions, but it also now specifies questions if youth use just flavored, nicotine, or marijuana laced vapors. Annual prevalence of marijuana vaping was considerable: 3%, 8%, and 10% in grades 8, 10, and 12. So were levels of nicotine vaping: 8%, 16%, and 19%. Vaping just flavoring showed an annual prevalence of 12%, 19%, and 21% in the three grades. So according to the Monitoring the Future survey, the number of young people who thought smoking was dangerous, what has been labeled perceived risk, has remained steady. These levels are currently the highest ever observed. Generally, perceived risk has been an important indicator of changes in the future use of the drug. Despite the initiation of smoking increasing from 9% in the 8th grade to 16% in the 10th grade, disapproval ratings of cigarette smoking are still rising and are at high levels among teens, largely due to educational programming. So, despite the strong trend of disapproval, this means we are still raising younger youth who will continue to smoke, chew, or inhale tobacco products. Why? Nearly 9 to 10 smokers begin smoking by age 18. According to a report from the National Institute of Drug Abuse, more than 5 million of those smokers under 18 years of age will die prematurely from a tobacco-related disease. So that is a hint to stay away. All right. Alcohol use statistics. According to a Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration study, alcohol is the most widely used substance of abuse among young people today. So that is, we have 33% of youth having consumed at least one drink by the age of 15. That number increases to 60% by age 18. Additionally, in 2015, 7.7 million youth between the ages of 12 and 20 drank more than a few sips of alcoholic beverage, with 5.1 million youth participating in binge drinking, which is 5 drinks or more per setting for males and 5 drinks or more per setting for females. Clearly, alcohol is a major concern among today's youth. Many younger youth, teens, parents, and communities believe underage drinking is an inevitable rite of passage from which adolescents can easily recover because their bodies are more resilient. However, the opposite is true. The brain goes through dynamic change during adolescence, and alcohol can seriously damage long-term and short-term growth processes. Damage from alcohol at this time can be long-term and irreversible. In addition, short-term and moderate drinking impairs learning and memory. Excuse me. Aside from the physical harm caused by alcohol usage among youth, there are also other significant risks. According to a 2016 Journal of School Health published study of high school seniors, alcohol was used most widely among respondents. Additionally, this alcohol usage started the earliest in life and was most commonly used in the development and progression of substance use and abuse, according to researchers. Collectively, alcohol, not nicotine or marijuana, is the ultimate getaway drug. Okay, so drug use statistics. Historically, marijuana is the most widely used illegal drug among younger youth. In 2016, roughly 2.6 million people aged 12 or older tried marijuana for the first time. Excuse me. Of those individuals surveyed, only a third aged 12 or older felt great risk or harm from using marijuana on a weekly basis. Additionally, 44.7% of youth aged 12 to 17 perceived an ease at obtaining marijuana. So I know a lot of these numbers are not geared to ages 8 to 12 years old, which is great. Although it's not good to see these numbers. And I know that you might be thinking, well, this isn't related to me. It is important to know these statistics so that so that when you get to that age, you will properly and appropriately know how to say no. All right. So moving along, we're going to discuss opioids, which you see here on the screen. So in addition to marijuana use, opioid misuse and abuse is one of the fastest growing issues in the United States. Opioids are a class of drugs that come from the poppy plant. They can be created naturally from the plant or in a laboratory setting. Opioids are sometimes prescribed as medicines because they cause the body to relax and relieve pain symptoms. Most of the time, opioids are used to treat serious pain issues, but in some less common cases, they are used to alleviate coughing and diarrhea. Opioids include oxycodone, hydrocodone, codeine, morphine, and heroin. I don't think I said that one correctly either. Most of the issues surrounding opioid usage results from prescription drug misuse and abuse. In 2016, 3.6% of youth aged 12 to 17 reported abusing opioids throughout the year. As adolescents age, this percentage increases to 7.3% among 18 to 25-year-olds, with the majority of the issues stemming from prescription opioids and not heroin. So, what are some dangers of opioids? Opioids are commonly used for non-medical purposes because they cause someone to feel relaxed and high. Opioids can be taken in tablet form or crushed in tablet form, dissolved in water, and snorted or injected into the veins. This drug is extremely addictive, which then leads users to frequently overdose. Death from opioid overdose is quite common. Prescription drugs containing opioids include oxycodone, hydrocodone, morphine, and fentanyl. Common slang terms for opioids include oxy, vikes, and perks. Heroin is the most dangerous opioid out there, which is why it is never used as a medication. Despite 85.6% of people 12 or older seeing heroin use as being risky, 2016 accounted for 170,000 new heroin users. Sadly, 1 in 12 adolescents perceived an ease of obtaining heroin. So, let's talk about how opioid affects the brain. When taken, opioids cling onto and activate opioid receptors on cells in the brain, spinal cord, and other organs of the body. They hit areas of the body involved in feelings of pain and pleasure, especially hard, helping to block pain signals sent from the brain to other body parts. The brain then releases large amounts of dopamine, causing the relaxed and high feeling. Dopamine is a chemical in the body that increases greatly when someone is anticipating a reward. In the case of opioids, the reward motivated behavior due to high levels of dopamine cause an addictive response. So this is really important for you guys to know, so you know to avoid it. In addition to the relaxed feeling, there are many effects of opioids on the body, some more severe than others. These effects include drowsiness, confusion, nausea, constipation, euphoria, slowed breathing. Again, it's important to know this, so you know what you're preventing. All right, so moving right along, I'm gonna have to go get some water in a minute. We have is that a fact? So sometimes we act in a given situation, we do it because we know the facts, and sometimes we act because we make an assumption or guess. A fact is reality or truth, while an assumption is something we think is true. But when we look at the facts, it is not always correct. So, an example, saying it is raining outside after stepping outside and seeing raindrops fall from the sky, that's a fact. Saying it is raining outside after hearing about the chance of rain on Google, that's an assumption. So, I am going to read a statement, and you've got to figure out whether it's a fact or an assumption. So, like I've said, pause the video at any time, and you can answer the question. The first statement is, if it is 90 degrees outside, it is warm enough to go swimming. That's a fact. We are going on a picnic, so there will be hot dogs. That's an assumption. May has 31 days. That's a fact. Because it is Friday, I'm going to have a spelling test. That's an assumption. Most kids my age are using drugs. That's an assumption. E-cigarettes contain harmful chemicals. Fact. Using someone else's prescription medicine is okay. Assumption. Smoking even one cigarette can hurt you. Fact. My friend did not say hello to me, so they must be mad. Assumption. You can get addicted to some drugs by taking them just one time. Fact. People who smoke are more relaxed. Assumption. If someone is coughing, it means they are a smoker. Assumption. Drinking alcohol makes you look more grown up. Assumption. The liquid in e-cigarettes can cause nicotine poisoning if someone drinks, sniffs, or touches it. Fact. Prescription opioids can be addictive. Fact. So that was the last statement. But always remember that facts are true and can be proven. Many people do not figure things out using facts. Instead, they make assumptions, make a guess, or imagine the truth because it is easier than finding the facts. While sometimes assumptions are true, it is always best to check the facts before making a decision. All right. Let's see what we've got going on next. All right. So, I've posted the link below, and I would love for you guys to do some research on this a little bit more because it is quite interesting to read some of the things provided from this study. So So this study, the Monitoring the Future study, this was done in 2017. I think they actually have an updated version, a 2019 version. But I've linked the website below. But here are just a couple examples. Alcohol, 9 out of 10 eighth graders do not use alcohol. For smoking, 9 out of 10 eighth graders do not use cigarettes. Marijuana, 9 out of 10 eighth graders do not use marijuana. Vaping, 9 out of 10 eighth graders do not vape. Inhalants, 9 out of 10 eighth graders have not used inhalants. Prescription type drugs, 9 out of 10 eighth graders have not used opioids such as Oxycontin and Vicodin. So although we see these crazy numbers of youth using these products, we need to also realize that 9 out of 10 of those youth, 9 out of 10 youth are not doing these. So it's that one that is, but still not very good, right? Okay. So let's talk about, you need to know whether things are legal or illegal. So we're going to play a little game as to whether is it legal or is it illegal. So there is a Google folder provided, and you should have access to that link. So in that folder, find the Know Your Drugs handout, and we're going to read over the different types of drugs. So from the list below, we're going to determine whether these drugs are legal or illegal. Let me get to the right page. I did want to read a little blurb real quick. So many younger youth hear a lot about drugs and drug abuse. Drug abuse is the use of illegal drugs or the abuse of prescription and over-the-counter drugs. Do younger youth really understand all the terms, the differences in the drugs, and what they really need to know? Some drugs that younger youth are currently abusing are legal when used as prescribed or defined by law, but are being used in ways that are very dangerous. So, we're going to relate legal and illegal drug use. In the case of legal drugs, they may be sold either over the counter or through a doctor's prescription and are legal when used as prescribed. In the case of illegal drugs, they cannot be sold anywhere. It, legality can change based on who is using the drug, age, and the location. So, for example, marijuana is legal in certain states, for example, like Colorado and California, but it's illegal here in North Carolina, right? So, marijuana use is legal for adults in certain states and illegal for everyone else in other states. Opioids are legal when used according to a prescription, but illegal when otherwise used. Prescription opioids are legal, but heroin is always illegal. So, let's see here. So, out of our list right here, let's think about what is legal and what's illegal. So, marijuana here in North Carolina is illegal. Fentanyl, legal. Ibuprofen, that's legal. You can use ibuprofen and Advil. Alcohol, illegal. Depending on the age. So, you must be 21 to buy alcohol. So, you must be 21 to drink alcohol. Ecstasy, illegal. Antibiotics, if they're antibiotics that are prescribed to you, those are legal, right? But if you're using antibiotics the wrong way, it's illegal. Cocaine, illegal. Inhalants, inha- um, inhalants would more than likely be illegal whenever you're misusing them. So especially if you're not of age. Cigarettes, illegal for your age, right? You must now be 21 to buy cigarettes. E-cigarettes, if you're not of age, illegal. Methamphetamine, meth, illegal. Painkillers, um, it depends on painkillers, right? So there are legal and illegal versions. Tylenol, that's legal. Cold and allergy medicines containing DXM, that's legal. You just must be a certain age to purchase them. Immunizations, those are legal. Heroin, illegal. Smokeless tobacco, chew, that's illegal at a certain age. Um, Caffeine, legal. Oxycontin, illegal if you're using it inappropriately. So, all right. So, if marijuana, tobacco, opioids, and alcohol are legal for everyone to use, why can legally, or who can legally buy and use tobacco? Like I mentioned before. Now, some studies you may read, if it's past this past year, they're going to say you must be 18 in order to use the products. But now it's actually 21. It's gone up. Who can legally buy use alcohol? 21-year-olds. Sorry, guys, my nose itches. Where can one legally buy and use marijuana? If you live in a state that has it legalized. And you must be in a certain age as well. When are opioids legal or illegal? So opioids, like we've mentioned before, we explained that they are illegal when you use them out of the prescription given. So if you do exactly as the prescription says, then it's legal. But if you just find a bottle laying around and you start taking the medicine, then it's illegal. Or if it's not even yours and you're taking it, that's illegal. So you can always check the laws for North Carolina. If you ever have any questions, check the laws and they can give you legal age limits. So just because marijuana, tobacco, and alcohol are legal for certain people to buy and use, we need to discuss the purposes of using them. So legal or legitimate drugs that are prescribed or sold over the counter can be harmful if used in any way or the quantity other than directed. So using unprescribed, or excuse me, using prescribed legal drugs incorrectly is illegal. In addition, it is illegal for anyone who is underage to use tobacco, alcohol, and marijuana. So don't forget that. Let's see what we got going on next. All right. So is it legal or is it a legal conclusion? What is a legal drug? What is an illegal drug? Can some drugs be legal and illegal at the same time? What are the consequences of using illegal drugs? What, if any, are reasons for youth to use illegal drugs? Can you think of any other legal or illegal drugs? How can you use what you know to educate friends about legal or illegal drugs? What drugs might be considered to be both legal and illegal? How can prescription drugs be harmful? Okay, those are some questions to think about and answer on your own. All right, so what is risk taking? So we're going to talk a little bit about risk taking, okay? So risk taking is very natural to younger youth. So maybe youth your age or a little older. They take some risks in order to grow, try new ideas, or experiment with new roles. So for example, youth take risks when applying for student council or going on a weekend leadership retreat. In these ways, risks can be good. However, younger youth can get into trouble with risk taking when they disregard future consequences. An example is choosing to smoke or drink while ignoring the long-term health consequences. So, what is risk taking? So, risk taking is doing something that has an uncertain outcome with the possibility of positive or negative outcomes. Risk can be good and bad. What is something very risky that people might consider doing? So, think about that. What are some things that people might consider doing? What is a risk that you've seen people take? So, for example, you can always think about maybe in school you might take a risk in or you might see someone, maybe you're not doing it, but maybe you see someone taking a risk and peeking on their friend's paper. Is that a good risk or a bad risk? It's a bad risk, yes. um, so when people choose to vape, smoke cigarettes, drink alcohol, or use drugs, they're taking a risk, okay? Which is not necessarily a good risk. So let's brainstorm a little. Um, so what are short-term and long-term risks and consequences of tobacco, alcohol, and drug use? So there's a brainstorming sheet in the Google folder that will help you think of risks and consequences um, for tobacco, alcohol, and drug use. Um, excuse me. So there are so here are some examples for short-term risks. You've got shortness of breath, more accidents, frequent colds and pneumonia, mouth sores, loss of appetite, gum disease, headaches, runny or bloody nose, nausea, asthma, discolored teeth, bad breath, smelly clothes, nicotine or drug withdrawal, and stress, and many more. Long-term risks, cancers that include lung, liver, breast, esophagus, jaw, mouth, throat, and others, strokes, chronic breathing problems, hardening of the arteries, high blood pressure, loss of money, serious jail time, death from overdose, and addiction. So, how do tobacco, alcohol, and drugs affect what you might want to do in the future? That's a really good question. So, think about that. So, if you are getting involved in tobacco, alcohol, and drugs, it's important to know that if you're ever caught or serve consequences, it will be shown in your future. So that could affect jobs you might be able to have, and things you might be able to do. In your opinion, is using tobacco, alcohol, and drugs worth the short-term risk? And if you need to go back to the slide before just to review those short-term and long-term risks, you can do that. Is using them worth the long-term risks? What are some of the risks of using tobacco, alcohol, and drugs? Are they short-term or are they long-term? What is addiction? We haven't discussed that yet, so think about what is addiction. What are some examples of positive risks? Do you have to think about the short-term and long-term consequences of positive risks? That's a great question as well. All right, so moving right along. Should I or shouldn't I? I want to be cool around my friends, but when they make fun of someone, I don't know how to tell them that it's wrong. So we're going to use the decision-making steps sheet in the Google folder. So you're going to use these steps. Using those steps, you'll be able to help make a decision. So what are options? Options are choices. Options are giving someone choices as to what they might do to solve a problem or meet a need. So for example, you might be asked, what's for dinner? And then you're given options to choose and help solve your problem. Your problem is what's for dinner, but you're giving options now to choose to help solve that problem. So what are some options to solve the problem quoted above? Do these options have good or bad consequences? So I want to be cool around my friends, but when they make fun of someone, I don't know how to tell them that it's wrong. So some options to solve the problem quoted above. Well, number one, you could ask others how to talk to them. You could ask family how to address the problem. Think about those options and think about what some good and bad consequences. So if you ask another friend, a bad consequence could be that they went and told those people, right? Instead of you telling them. And then that wouldn't be very good. Good consequences could be that you tell them and they think that they agree with you and they won't do it again. All right, so younger youth and stress. So what is stress? So stress is a physical, chemical, or emotional factor that causes bodily and mental tension. Let me get to my page. So what creates stress in younger youth? So younger youth today have activities scheduled from morning to night. They are encouraged to get good grades, do their homework, be involved in sports and music, and join a club or organization, to name a few. Parents, school, coaches, family, and others play roles in helping to create that stress. Younger youth, as well as youth, are under more stress than ever if they want to compete with their peers. Youth are also feeling additional stressors from growing up and transitioning to different schools, moving from elementary to middle school, from elementary to middle and high schools, and going through puberty can both be very stressful for adolescents. Younger youth leave the safety of elementary school and then middle school or junior high to face a whole new world of high school with new rules and overwhelming expectations to succeed. Friends are lost. New influential peers are gained. Younger youth from diverse cultures or with disabilities may face even more stressed since they may feel different and isolated. At the same time, biology is also dictating new rules. Puberty is changing bodies and personalities. Younger youth experience psychological, social, and cognitive changes. Growing up also includes navigating the path between independence and relying on others. Is it any wonder that younger youth experience stress and their emotions become fragile? Yep. So managing and mismanaging stress. So what are stressed out younger youth to do? Some manage stress by relaxing and thinking positively, solving problems, and seeking support from friends and family. However, some mismanage stress by turning to alcohol, drugs, and tobacco. The problems with mismanaging stress by using tobacco, alcohol, and drugs are serious. Consider the health risks by using different drugs. The nicotine in cigarettes and e-cigarettes is an unforgiving drug that, though effective in boosting energy and calming the mind, demands continual use. Without continual use, the nicotine addict has to deal with withdrawal, including symptoms of nervousness, anxiety, and depression. Substance abuse can lead to abnormal heart rates and heart attacks, and injecting drugs can result in collapsed veins and infection in your heart valves. Alcohol abuse can cause depression and liver damage. Oxycodone is a dangerous drug that, when abused, can cause slow breathing, respiratory arrest, and even death. So, a word about stress and drug messages. Some younger youth focus on media messages that seem to imply when stressed, you should reach it for an e-cigarette, alcohol, or other drugs. To youth, it appears to be a prescription of sorts, where if you drink or smoke or use other drugs, you will be less stressed. Remind younger youth that drug users rely on drugs to relieve the stress of drug withdrawal, not the stress of life. If you already have a lot of stress in your life, who needs more? Millions of people use effective strategies every day to reduce stress. Those strategies don't include tobacco, alcohol, and or drugs. Look for ways to subtract stressors, not add them. So, let me see what's next. So, is stress weighing you down? When you hear or see the word stress, what comes to mind? Think of all the things that make you feel stressed. Think of 5 things that stress you. Some examples may be a sick pet, a math test, a fight with a parent, maybe a fight with a sibling, or there are many things that could possibly stress you out. So, drug abusers deal with stress by using drugs. Drugs such as opioids can cause the brain to release chemicals which can help a person feel better. They can sometimes improve someone's mood. Opioids Opioid users learn to depend on the drug, which is a rapid calming effect. Younger youth who think that using oxycodone, heroin, or fentanyl as a way to deal with stressful situations can get addicted to opioids. Similarly, alcohol, other drugs, and nicotine can trap younger youth. A stressed out preteen, like a troubled adult, may turn to e-cigarettes, alcohol, and or drugs for comfort. Even the act of refilling an e-cigarette or lighting up a cigarette can be seen as a much needed break in an otherwise stressful day. Yet, addictive, addictive tobacco alcohol, and or drugs can act like a crutch, robbing us of the need to develop alternative stress-reducing strategies. Addicted younger youth end up more stressed as they must continually meet the need to deliver tobacco, alcohol, and or drugs to their systems. So, so stress isn't always bad, okay? So I know sometimes it might be perceived as stress being bad, but it's not always bad. It can be good. Stress can, excuse me, can get us to do more work, be more alert, and compete at a higher level. Some people actually look for ways to add stress to their lives. So, what are some ways that stress might be good? Let's think about that for a minute. What are some ways that stress might be good? So, stress might be good. For an example, maybe you're planning a birthday party, okay? That could be a little stressful, right? Because you have to think about who's coming, how many people are coming, what you're going to feed, how much cake you need, stuff like that. That might be perceived as good stress, okay? Lots of stress can cause problems. Under a lot of stress, we may have trouble eating, sleeping, staying safe, or concentrating. We may overreact and feel cranky, depressed, or anxious. Physically, stress can make our hearts pound faster, make our muscles tense up or feel tight, and or give us a stomach ache. That's no fun. Stress is one reason that um, some people think they need to use tobacco, alcohol, or drugs to calm down. They believe that these substances offer quick fixes to relieve their stresses, when in fact, they are only adding more stress to their lives. There are better, healthier ways of dealing with the stresses in our lives. So, what I'd like for you to do is think of all the things that make you feel stressed. And like I said right here, think of all the things that make you feel stressed. Think of 5 things that stress you. And I'd like for you to write them out. Get a piece of paper and a pen and write them out. Once you have them written out, I want you to organize them in a way which is most stressful to least stressful. Okay? So, what does stress feel like? Where do you feel stress in your body? I feel stress in my head a lot. I might you suggest to a friend who usually deals with stress by using tobacco, alcohol, and or drugs to work on the source of the stress. So using tobacco, drugs, and alcohol will cause them more stress, right? Are there any stressors in your life that you can eliminate? How? All right. So we are moving along. How to say no. So this is probably something that you may want to know, right? I know that I would want to know how to say no if someone were to ask me to do something I don't want to do. All right. So, peer pressure is a big influence in the lives of younger youth. It is part of the learning process to listen to and learn from peers, as well as wanting to do what they do. Peer pressure can be positive or negative. When it comes to tobacco, alcohol, and drug use, it is easy to just go along because of the need to be accepted and fit in, curiosity to try something different, and belief that everybody is doing it. Younger youth, we need skills to use when faced with challenging decisions, right? So let's figure out those skills. I did want to mention, please note that majority of the youth your age, 8 to 12 years old, do not use tobacco, alcohol, and drugs. All right. We are trying to prevent that, right? We're teaching you how to say no. We're teaching you how to prevent them. Okay. So, think about why people take risks and how people influence or pressure you. So think about a friend or family member that might be doing something and they're like, come on, do it too, do it too. But you're like, I know that's wrong and I shouldn't do it. But they're over here, come on, come on, come on, come on. So let's think about some ways that you can say no. So the influence or pressure is sometimes positive and sometimes negative, right? So sometimes we just have to say no. Let's practice that. No. All right. Practice. No. So we're going to use the handouts in the Google folder, how to say no and ways to say no. So practice those, all right? So find those handouts and read through them and practice them. So they have some statements and then the word no. So it's going to have a statement. You're going to read it and you're going to answer to them no. And then there's some ways of how to say no. So instead of just saying no, how to politely say no, or when dealing with a certain situation, how to say no in that way. So why is it important to learn to say no? Because you got to know how to say no, right? You've got to know how to say no to avoid these problems in your life, or avoid doing the wrong things. So what is the hardest part about saying no to something your friends want to do? I know I personally have experienced that before. You know, you see friends doing something really fun and really cool, but you know something's just not right about it. So you just have to say no. No, I'm good this time. Maybe next time. But even that's not even a good response, right? You want to make sure no is no. Okay, that way they won't ask you again. Is it easy or hard to say no? I think it would depend on the situation. If there was something that I really didn't like, then I would say no easily. But if it's something that you're like, you have to think about it, it can make it hard, right? So practice those ways on how to say no. All right. So why would younger youth want to use tobacco, alcohol, and drugs? So these are some examples that you may think of that you may let me just read through them. So you want to be cool. You like to take risks. You want to fit in. You want to be like your friends. You are under stress. You want to get good grades. You are bored. You want everyone to think you are a rebel to gain respect from others. You are having fun with friends and want to keep the fun going. You want to be grown up. You don't want to follow rules anymore. You are celebrating. You're mad at somebody. You are in emotional pain and feeling down, and you want other people to know it. Have you ever felt those before? All right. So let's talk a little bit about, are you getting the message? Let me find my page, sorry. Okay. Are you getting the message? So, youth may be more technology technologically, savvy than their parents, plus they have greater access to the internet, movies, music streaming, online videos, television, and video games. Social networking sites, online video games, blogs, and smartphones all offer unlimited interest into a world that youth are accessing that parents may be unaware. So, media influences and alcohol. All right. Um, so, on an average day, youth spend an average of 9 hours per day consuming medias in a mostly digital format. Okay, so that's whether you're on a tablet, a phone, a computer, TV, computer, I think I say computer, um, anything digital. Though the use of smartphones, computers, and gaming systems, youth are spending over 137 days per the year in front of a screen watching television and videos, gaming, listening to music, and communicating through social media. As a result, companies are focusing on digital formats as media outlets. Through the use of smartphones, computers, and gaming systems, advertisers are targeting youth in a very aggressive manner. Okay, so we're going to talk about how these media messages might not be so good. So you will see approximately 1,000 alcohol ads online per year, or 3 per day. Annually, $29 is spent per adult and child in the U.S. on tobacco marketing. That's crazy. So, in addition to the online environment, the traditional television is still a prime medium for advertisers. Almost every home, 96.5% in America, has a television. In a recent study, 31.9% of advertisement dollars for alcohol companies were spent in traditional media, TV, radio, print, and similar products. However, over the past 10 years, dollars spent in the online arena for alcohol advertisements have experienced a four-fold increase. This suggests that youth are much more likely to come into contact with alcohol advertisements than ever before, with each youth being exposed to 3 alcohol advertisements per day online. Little is done on federal level to regulate alcohol advertisements, yet the alcohol industry is adopted voluntary standards to abide by the alcohol product advertisements. Since only those over 21 can buy alcohol, traditional and online media advertisements must be directed to this of age audience. On many sites, an individual must type in a birth date to prove their age. However, youth can easily type in an incorrect birth date to have access to the site. This minimal safeguard does little to prevent youth from being exposed to alcohol advertisements. That's just a little bit about media influences and alcohol. So let's read a little bit about media influences in tobacco. Cigarette companies were one of the first to advertise widely on television, but haven't done a television or radio since 1971 when the federal government prohibited them. Yet in 2016, cigarette and smokeless tobacco companies spent $9.5 billion on advertising and promotional expenses in the United States alone. These dollars mainly went to retailers or wholesalers to reimburse discounts given to consumers, pay for the display and merchandising of certain brands, and offer volume rebates and incentive payments. On average, tobacco companies are spending $29 for every adult and child to market their product. That's wild. So, images versus reality. So, advertising is not all about facts or information, it's about image. Advertising tells younger youth like you that if they smoke or drink, they will become independent, even rebellious, adult-like, happy, and healthy. The actors and ads are attractive, glamorous, popular, and sexy. These traits appeal to everyone, especially younger youth. But remember, it's not good, right? The media, including advertising, zeroes in on insecurities and dreams, insisting that the use of the product closes the gap between actual self image and an ideal man or woman. For example, if a person wishes to be independent or romanticizes about being a winner, he or she may easily identify with alcohol ads featuring fans having a good time at a sports event. As a leader, I can help you understand what advertising does. So, like I've said, you are not of age, so it's really made for adults. It's not made for you. Although you're able to view it as in a commercial or a picture or something, just remember it's not for you, right? So important. Um, all right, let's see. Okay, so here's an activity I would love for you guys to do on your own. We are wrapping up the program. So I would love for you to create a message that opposes or is anti-tobacco, alcohol, or drugs. So like we've just covered, the media it'll show you to use these products, okay? But you don't see many advertisements or media images stating to not use them, okay? So in the Google folder, you'll see a smoke, smoke, smoke jingle. And this is an example of an anti-cigarette jingle, like it's a little song. So I would love for you to create a message, create an ad, a picture, words, song, whatever it is. Create something to that talks about anti-tobacco, anti-alcohol, anti-drugs, whichever one you want to focus on. If you want to focus on all three, do that. So you want to think about after you do your project, how did you decide on your ad or message? Okay, who is your target audience? How did you decide your target audience? So those are things you want to think about. Okay. I would love for you to share your message with me. Email it to my email, taylor_fur@ncsu.edu. I would love to see what you come up with. And with that being said, we are wrapping this up, you guys. So this, again, is the beginner level of the Health Rocks curriculum, so or program rather. So do you know that when you become of age of 13 to 17 years old, then you can access the intermediate level. So I will work on the intermediate level in the near future so folks have access to that. But right now, I wanted to get this program out for everybody, especially those who may have signed up to do the summer program. So I hope you enjoyed and learned a little bit about Health Rocks. I know that I have, especially those statistics numbers and all. I was not aware of all those numbers. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this program, and please feel free to email me. My email is listed right there. Email me with any questions you might have. Again, I am Taylor Fur, and I'm the Stokes County 4-H agent, and we work with North Carolina Cooperative Extension. So I hope you guys learned a little bit from this program, and I hope to hear from you in the near future. Thank you all for tuning in.